Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now make sure you all can hear me. Oh, yes, it's working. I think I confused some people, but I'm glad to see you too on. And I'm looking at some of my RSVPs and regrets. I think you can appreciate this, Anthony, being in so many different time zones. You get one specific time in your mind that sounds right for you, and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not there anymore. Oh my God, what did I say? I don't know. But here I am. Here I am.
I feel you.
And it's,
World Time Buddy is my worldtimebuddy.com is my savior. Or-
it has to be. You have to have some accountability, some electronic accountability. Is there a blockchain for that? There's at least there's a website for that. Send me that link. Send me that link. I need that. And I'm very fastidious, and on time is late, and all of that. And then I just got to thinking, did I say one? Because I'm in Arizona right now, so no worries. Um, and I was just in Hawaii, so I was 5 hours behind, and was trying to make sure in my confirmations, but then sending out so many emails, something evidently something was right because here you are, and Lynette's here too. So I'm just gonna go forward. We are recording. Look for an email later today with a replay of this recording. Eventually, I will get it up on the in the clubhouse as well. But I'm really excited about this because it's so important, and it's something that I'm doing constantly, managing wallets, um, bobbing and weaving with the headlines of exchanges. It was incredibly disappointing to see this epic fall of FTX. Not the least of which is because I had the lead of policy on my podcast maybe a month ago. Mark Region was on the show and invited me down to DC Tech Week to actually meet with him and Sam and some other folks. And they had invited me to be on this policy alliance. I had just said yes. And literally 24 hours, I was like, by yes, I mean no. This is ridiculous. And to have my name associated with anything that goes left is just not acceptable and put so many people at risk. And the one thing that I am happy about in some sense is the impact on Bitcoin and ETH in particular. The pullback was, it can look kind of dramatic when we've had prices of Bitcoin above 20,000. And then the pullback to like 16,000, 17,000. But there was so much speculation. There was so much speculative value with people jumping on. Let's get some other folks in here. People really jumping on with price speculation. A lot of newcomers who were in, and they have shaky hands as well. So people who are looking to make a quick buck, if things go remotely bad, they're going to pull their money out. And we kind of settle into the slow but steady growth that I hope for Bitcoin, ETH, and a lot of the other prices are impacted because thousands of those projects and tokens are complete BS. That's why you don't hear me talk about coins and tokens above and beyond Bitcoin and ETH. They're fully decentralized. I do not get anything, whether they go up or down, other than my own personal participation. We really have to start being very savvy and critical about how we analyze our participation in other things. Do I own other tokens? Absolutely. Things like Filecoin, and where I know the people, I know the project, and I know that they're compliant and that they're actually building something that's not complete BS and actually building something, right? I could create Tonya Coin tomorrow and convince a community to get excited about it, but what's the point of it? If you're not improving upon what already exists in the market, or you're not working to solve some type of challenge or make things better, faster, and cheaper, whatever that thing is, whether it's in the environment, electricity, decentralized file storage, I really like projects like that. What's the point? You're wasting money. So we're going to get really savvy, talk much more about that, and I'll have more to say. I have a slide deck to share today to kind of take us through, but think about your own, the wallets you're using right now, the perhaps centralized exchanges where perhaps some of your crypto is parked. I had some. I moved almost everything off of exchanges, and I actually really like Gemini. But heck, I like the guys over at FTX for a second. We are not keeping our crypto on centralized exchanges, absent a really, really, really compelling reason, right? And there are some great and compelling reasons. We've talked about parking your crypto in order to maybe in the DeFi space to generate a loan. But there are other ways that we can do that, facilitating cold storage wallets. We don't, there has to be a compelling reason to be on a centralized exchange. I don't care which one it is, point blank and period. And I use Gemini a lot and I like him. And I like the Winklevoss twins, but I don't know them, right? So we are going to double down on the entire point of crypto, which is to lean into self-custody. But it is not without its challenges. And I'm not gonna, blow smoke to just say, well, this is the way and it's simple to do. You have to stay on top of this. I'm going to introduce this topic. We talked about it, I think, the last time that we met as a club, to really focus on continuing crypto education. And so I'm going to really lean into that. I'll also make this announcement that I think we started to talk about. Anthony will be my lead coach so let's give him a virtual or actual round of applause. He's done tremendous things. He's grown exponentially in these last 2 years. I trust my curriculum with him, and I learn things from him as well. So I feel very grateful that when I said, I need you, man, and he answered the call. You'll hear more about that after he and I meet and kind of figure out our cadence, but the basics of the Explorer Club meeting once a month, and he'll be the lead of that. I'll pop on sometimes. We'll always have these special things as well. But I'm going to lean into the Grand Slam Circle, which is a high touch, high impact, all access opportunity to work with me on a more consistent basis, and we'll talk more about that. But let's get to empowering you. Welcome, Lynette. Welcome, Antonio. Welcome, Braz. I know a lot of you are probably at work or doing something. Lynette says she's in listening mode, so that is all good. Let me share my slides, and then we'll get to getting here. All right. Okay. So for those of you who have gone through my Secure Advantage, taking a couple of modules out of that to focus specifically on wallets, the diversification of wallets, to go through a reminder of the different types, and then to support you if you either want to move your crypto from one wallet to another, or the point of this session to move it off of a centralized exchange and onto your wallet. And I'll talk about some other wallets I'm using now. Then that's really the point of this. So a slight refresher. I think everybody who's on, you're already familiar with the basics of crypto, and so we're not doing that part. We're really focused on the technology, and then I'll take your Q&A. I have some best practices to share now, and so let's just talk through that. So here we're talking crypto custody, the wallets that I am focused on now, and then let's help you, support you in moving in whatever way you want to move. Particularly if you started with me for the first at least year, probably a year and a half, we started with the Bread wallet because it was super easy to use. And then Bread was acquired by Coinbase. I don't mess with Coinbase. It's a legitimate centralized exchange. It is public. It was the first time, as an aside, and make a note of this if you weren't aware, it was the first time people became aware that Coinbase, if it had to file bankruptcy, like FTX is filing right now, if Coinbase had to file bankruptcy, part of the assets that would be at risk is all of the crypto that people send to Coinbase that is just sitting there. It becomes part of their asset portfolio because it's no longer yours. It's just an IOU. And if somebody files bankruptcy, you're probably not going to get paid back, and you're certainly not going to get paid back before the major players who were investors and who secured their debt with the assets of Coinbase. The reason, and it was always in the fine print probably, but the reason that people started talking about it is when Coinbase went public. It was the first time most people learned that, because even lawyers don't read all of the fine print. And to compare that experience to FTX, FTX was the same, but they never disclosed that. And there's a lot of other stuff going behind the scenes. So this is the reason anything that you're holding long term, or if you have sizable assets, or even if they're not sizable today, our idea and our goal is really to create generational wealth and to preserve that over time, to not become susceptible to the whims of others. And that's what happens to systemically marginalized people all the time. We get our Tulsa and then somebody burns it down. Have that mindset when you think about centralized exchanges, so that we can start to empower ourselves. So I'll take two parts of the secure advantage. I'll remind you all of the things that I've talked about before, but we're going to focus on two. And of course, the lawyer in me must remind you, but you already know, that this is a highly volatile asset class. The value of cryptocurrencies can go up as well as down, and sometimes dramatically so. They are not covered by financial compensation schemes like the FDIC, although if you are dealing with centralized exchanges, there are some that will create their own system, but it's not backed by the government, and so you should be aware of that, and that this presentation is for informational and educational purposes. All right, you already know who I am. I see all the familiar faces, so there's some new members who have joined recently. I don't see them on, but just to educate, because some people will watch this afterwards. Law professor at Penn State Dickinson Law, co-hire at Penn State Institute for Computational and Data Sciences. I've been an attorney since 1998. I started when I was 2, as you can tell. I'm the host of Tech Intersect podcast, and I'm definitely winning in the space, whether we're going up or down. My life personally has been transformed by strategic and key moves in the crypto space, and I want to help you learn from all of my mistakes so that you don't make them, or that we definitely can move forward past them quickly. You all already know about digital currencies in the crypto space, and for those who are new to the space and watching this later, if you are already using Venmo or Cash App or PayPal or Zelle, you're already familiar with moving digital representations of value back and forth. We're all doing it. You swipe a credit card. It's very rare that we are actually touching cash at this point. The difference with cryptocurrencies is the digital encryption that makes it more secure, that can make it more private, where people may know your public wallet address, but they don't know you, and they don't need to know, as long and financial privacy, as long as you're doing things legally. There's a lot of power in financial privacy, because the best way to know about someone is to see the ledger of their bank transactions. That tells the tale more than anything else. So it's really important to have encrypted means of transferring value that sit outside of a centralized monitoring system like a government or a private corporation like FTX. You know that this requires trust, and the trusted intermediaries like a bank or some governments, that I don't see this system that we're talking about now replacing that, but the trust is not in people, but in processes that are public facing and can be vetted, that are not stored in the centralization of power into one particular person or group or entity, but shared. The information is shared across a community that works together to verify the information based upon software-enabled rules. Andreas Antonopoulos has this great saying, we want rules, not rulers, not the dynastic wealth that can be centralized in the hands of one or few, but really, and Andreas talks about this too, he was on my podcast early, talking about Bitcoin in particular, to be for the other 6 billion people, not for the few people who have benefited from wealth, dynastic wealth, that they pass down from generation to generation. You know that blockchain is this means of this time-stamped, how shall I say it, time-stamped record of transactions and balances. We could have a lot of sophisticated ways of describing it, but at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. It's a database. It's a database or record stored as software of transactions and balances. It's time-stamped, and it is secure. Oftentimes when you hear about hacks, it can be a blockchain. It's never been the Bitcoin blockchain. It's never been the Ethereum virtual machine, although there have been some patches that need to happen. Think of how often you get a software update for a phone or a program. So that's not a problem. It's the very nature of the software evolving with a good core of developers who are beholden really to the community, not to one person. It's commonly, it being blockchains, commonly applied to cryptocurrencies, but it could be used for other bits of information as well. Also referred to as a ledger, not controlled by a centralized party, but managed by a network of computers all running the same software. If you hear jets in the background, I hope I have my noise canceling going on, but I'm near an Air Force base, so it seems that the pattern is going over this house right now. All right, and you've heard me refer to blockchain ledgers as like a group text. As long as one person still has it on their phone, there's a record of those exchanges. Now multiply that or extrapolate that out to millions of computers, and you can see the benefits of a shared agreement of one central source of the truth and the veracity of transactions and balances. So let's hit the secure advantage. And while I'm going through this, I hope you have in front of you, let me see this for a second, a list of, and this might be a product, done this yet, a list of the wallets that you are using. It might just be one, might be just be one wallet and one exchange. But it may be many. I have several. I have some that are warm or hot. I have cold storage. They're in different places in the world, depending upon what they're holding. So start to think of that. And I don't think that you need to have 100 of them. It makes it difficult to keep up unless you have a means of keeping up. And if you do, that's fine too. A lot of people I know who hold a lot of crypto break it up like that. That's fine. But at least, and if you only have one, that's actually a good thing, or a few, because it's easier for you to start to have really good habits about maintaining the information of your wallets, your exchanges, etc. You'll also be able to do this, and this is the reason I talk so much about a tax tracker. We use primarily Coin Tracker, and I'll say, remind you all about that towards the end. That's another great way to manage all of your wallets, and at the same time, you will have access to the tax documents that your CPA would need, or if you are filing yourself and you use something like TurboTax, something like Coin Tracker integrates seamlessly. It's made things so much easier. You have got to keep these records because at the end of the day, you're the taxpayer, and many CPAs don't know what the heck is going on. And so at the end of the day, if they make a mistake, it's still on you. And so I will continue to remind you each time we meet about the different ways and the best practices for maintaining your records. One of the questions I received in advance was just they heard about CEXs or centralized exchanges, so CEX, CEX, or decentralized exchanges, DEXs or DEX, and what the difference, the similarities and the differences. So at a high level, exchanges, just like a stock exchange, they're platforms that facilitate the trading of an asset, one asset for another asset. They do it in pairs. I'll show you an example of it if you've not seen kind of the sophisticated trading platform. A lot of platforms like Coinbase or Gemini. I imagine Kraken. I'm actually reintroducing myself to Kraken because it's one of the strongest centralized exchanges that actually encourage you to take your crypto off of the exchange. They're like, we are an exchange, you're exchanging one asset for another, and then we believe in cold storage or self-custodied crypto, so get it off our exchange. So I think that's really responsible. I think it's one of the best. Anthony, I think you have mentioned that as well. I feel like we've talked about it before, but I'm going to start talking more about Kraken, so let's keep that on our list of possibilities as well. So centralized exchange is an intermediary between buyer and seller. They are pairing a willing buyer and a willing seller of a particular two assets. Sometimes it is Bitcoin for Ethereum. It could be anything. There are 21,000, almost 22,000 now, different types of coins and tokens. But that centralized entity creates wallets for you on their platform, but it's a wallet for purposes of your individual ledger on their entire system. But you don't control that crypto, as I mentioned earlier. It's kind of like an IOU. You send it from your wallet onto the exchange, and the exchange says, I see your transfer onto our platform, your individual balance, kind of like a bank does when we are putting things in and out. And when the exchange is made or you are withdrawing off of that exchange, then your individual ledger is deducted from. So, but that centralized entity is the one that is handling it, and for the purposes of the exchange, they take it on as if it's their own asset. Not your keys, not your cheese. Not your keys, not your crypto, not your coins, not your whatever, however you want to say it. It's not yours, it's an IOU. Kind of like a dollar, but I digress. They make money through commissions and transaction fees. It tends to be a much higher fee, although not as bad as banks and some other ways that we move value, but obviously they're going to make commissions off of the sale or the exchange, excuse me, of those assets and the transaction fees. All of those things, generally speaking, are very transparent, but they're going to be more expensive than a DEX, and I'll say more about that. Centralized exchanges are matching buyers and sellers. They do it via an order book. They have a list of sellers, they have a list of buyers. The ticker is going constantly. I've learned a tremendous amount, not only through my own trades in crypto, but also from Terry Egioma's Trade and Travel program. And just learning more about stocks and stock exchanges and trading, that has helped me. Even though I'm not a day trader. I do some stock swing trading, but I'm definitely not a crypto trader. We have that trusted intermediary on the centralized side. On the decentralized side, which I really like, but it can be very, very sophisticated, because instead of this centralized entity or intermediary that involves humans and software, DEXs are just software. It allows peer-to-peer transactions directly from your wallet without going through an intermediary. So you are always in control of your keys, your keys, your cheese. And so this is a great way to combine self-custody with the ability to have a platform to exchange one asset for another. DEXs generally don't allow you to do crypto to fiat exchanges. So they're not great for onboarding. They are, particularly as a US citizen, they're not great for onboarding, but once you're in the crypto system, then going from one with automated functions that are usually done by humans, now fully by software, by smart contracts that are automating the performance of the trades. And so there's far more financial privacy and way less in terms of the costs. We call that slippage. Less slippage, more privacy. And so DEXs certainly have their place. Uniswap has matured quite nicely in the space. DYDX or DYDX, that's what I say, but some people say DYDX. I'm not familiar with Kyber, but I saw it when I was preparing for this presentation. I am familiar with Pancake Swap, but I've never used it. I have used Uniswap. So we can talk more about that in the weeks and the months to come, as we lean more heavily into support for self-custody and for a range of ways to do exchanges as we do our continuing crypto education. The one final thing is you're on your own. There's no customer service, so if it goes badly, or you send the wrong asset to the wrong wallet, it's out in the great beyond, and there's no can you reverse that? It's game over, right? So let me pause there and see if there are any questions. And everything we're talking about, I literally have made these mistakes. They are painful. I actually don't have any music or TV on when I'm moving assets. I block my time. I measure twice to cut once, right? If I'm moving something larger, I'll send a little bit first and make sure it's right. When I was setting up a new wallet, my warm wallet, my preferred warm wallet is Trust Wallet. I like it a lot. But I was setting it up just from scratch, and it was good for me to do that because as I was preparing for this session, I wanted to feel what it was like to begin again, so that I could put myself in your position to make it easier for me to see how it could potentially not go so well. And that was good. So I'll pause it for a second, either in the chat or if you want to raise your virtual or actual hand if you're on video, if you have any questions right now. All right, I'm going to chat. No worries, Antonio. I will circulate this recording afterwards, so you will see it. No worries. All right, have a great day. Excellent. All right, so we're good. All right, let's keep pressing on. This is what I wanted to show you. This is not my account, but it is an example of what the active trader looks like in Gemini. And there was always so much going on that I was quite intimidated when I first started to figure out what is going on. What are these lines? What are these columns? What are these wicks on? Now I know that they're candles. The way that it is set up, and so this is called active trader in Gemini, but I imagine that most look something like this. When Coinbase had Coinbase Pro, it looked a lot like this. There were far fewer trading pairs, but if you've never used the more sophisticated version of trades, and maybe you're just buying or selling at market price as opposed to setting limit orders, in 2023, we're going to get a little more granular about how to get comfortable. This is the way that sophisticated traders, both in the crypto space, or you don't have to be a trader, but when you're making a trade in the crypto space, if you were on an exchange for stocks, for example, this is what it would look like. We have to get comfortable and more familiar with the language of finance and of investment. So instead of saying, I don't know what this is and it's too much, let's just lean into it. And so that we become more confident as we're moving through, getting to know words like the spread and what that means, and whether you're participating in an auction, etc. I don't use some of these more sophisticated things, but I've learned what they mean and at least why they're there, why it's set up, where I find my open orders, how to cancel an order. So we'll start working on more things like that, because it's one thing to buy and hold, but it's another thing to have something and exchange one for another. And I want us to do both and, not either or, right? And by show of the hand or a +1 in the chat, has anyone used something like this before, either active trader in Gemini or just order books in other places? Got it. Yep, so we have Anthony uses active trader. I tend to set limit orders so that unless I have a present need to do something today, and maybe even if I do a limit order, it'll be closer to the spread, so it's likely for the trade to go through. Otherwise, I'll set it and forget it. I'll kind of do a chart. It's something that I don't need, but would be nice to have at a particular price. And then I would set it, and then it's always a delightful surprise. Even when it goes through, it could go through tomorrow, it could go through in a month, and be like, oh, right. And it comes, and you get the confirmation, so that's nice to see. All right, so we'll continue to talk about that going forward. Oh, I made it. Oh, can y'all see that? Look what I did. I forgot that it was active trader. It's going to be a great presentation. All right, now back to the reason that we are, we've talked about this caution when storing your crypto in exchanges, and hopefully you understand more why that is of concern given what's happened. It's just like, this is not particular just to crypto, and it's the reason that the FDIC, when we're talking about dollars, came into being when, if there's a run on a bank, everybody can't get their money out because we actually, our reserves, for purposes of dollars, there's not a one-to-one for every single person. If every single person went to your bank today, there's not enough money for everyone. Because when we deposit our money into our saving, let's do savings and loans, into a savings account or even a checking account, the reason that it takes 3 to 5 business days or 14 days to get your money back is they actually lent it out, probably back to you to buy something at a high interest rate. And then they keep the difference. So, I've had 6 figures in a bank account only to make less than $10 of interest. Whereas I could have let's say, I don't think it was more than 10,000 equivalent in various coins on a platform and earning interest. And 6 months into that, there was $1,000. 8 months into that, it was $1,000 equivalent. There's just no comparison. That's one of those things that's kind of like a compelling desire to have something on an exchange, but there are other ways that we can access interest and things of that nature while not having it on a centralized exchange. So in future sessions, we'll continue to talk about that, but we just have great caution. It's not that we don't do it, but you have to go through the process of what are the boxes to check to say, this is good for me to do for a limited time. And then stick to it to be sure. Since 1929, sad but true. Okay, so some of the steps to think about when you are analyzing where you're going to secure your crypto, whether that is on an exchange for some limited time and a specific purpose, or more importantly for your own wallets. It's just generally assessing what the risks are of where you're holding your crypto. Every method and means of storing crypto has a risk. Every single one, even the ones that I prefer, like cold storage, has risks of losing not only the actual hardware, as long as you still have your seeds, and we'll talk about that if you don't understand what that means, but certainly if you lose the hardware but have your seeds, you can restore your account on another device. You have your hardware, you lose your hardware and you lose your seeds, it's game over. It's game over. You'll never have access to that anymore. So that's a risk of self-custody, to be sure, no matter if it's a cold storage wallet or an app on your phone or a program on your computer or paper. Some people just still maintain their private keys and their seeds on paper. They call it a paper wallet, which really just looks like a piece of paper to me, but it's fine. So the other risk is not just of losing access to your assets, but also the risk of the value. We don't talk about it as much, but you might have control over your assets, but you are buying a super risky token. It's more risky than crypto in general. And then it's here today and it's gone tomorrow. So the risk of value loss is important to keep track of. And that's why you diversify. Diversify your portfolio, diversify your wallets, diversify your exchanges. So if any one thing is not chugging along, there's always a balance. When something's down, something's up. And you have access to one, so keep that in mind. We're diversifying. Backing up your access and your transactional records is critically important. If you haven't set up your coin tracker wallet, please use bit.ly or bit.ly/coin tracker advantage. You can set up a free account, but that won't give you access to a tax account. You can buy a tax account with that link at a discount, and it's already reasonably priced given what we're doing. I don't have the prices in front of me, and they change a little bit every year, so I don't want to misquote it. But use that link. That link is also in our clubhouse if you haven't already done that as well. And CCE, I don't really hear people using that term, so I think I'm going to trademark it. But it probably is merely descriptive, but let's see how it goes. Continuing crypto education is key. That's why you all are here. And it's not enough to just buy the course and not check in over time, or get the course, just get the club, and not keep up with all of the best practices. This space moves quickly. A great example is what I said earlier about many of you starting with the Bread wallet that we moved on from. And if you still have your assets on Bread, there was this window of opportunity to do some things. I think you can still move it. I can't remember, but there was a compelling need at the time to move things off of Bread. And if you still have it there, reach out to me, send me an email, and let's see what we can do. Anthony, we might have to do this over again, right? Like the beginning of the year to do something like this, and just in a regular club setting. So let's see about that. All right. Check the time. Okay, good. So the two things that I want to take a closer look at is number 3 and number 5 of my Secure Advantage method. So the Secure Advantage method you see on your screen: start slow, educate with facts, not fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD. The importance of cold wallet storage, and we're going to talk about that here more specifically. Using secure internet, of course. Review your seed words. We will talk about that in this session as well. And exchanges, of course, are no place for your crypto, and that is the theme of the session today. So the cold versus hot wallets. This is really, really important about the different types. So getting clear, and it's not about using only one or another, but understanding the different types and the idea of cold versus hot or warm. Cold storage is not connected to the internet unless and until you connect them, like a Ledger or Trezor. There's some others, the Keep Key. There are about 6, and I actually want to provide a list, and I'll let you know if I've used them before. I'm in the process of getting a Trezor. I think I want to buy one of each, just so I have them, and I'll be a better educator if I've used them all. So there are like 6 that seem to be commonly recommended. Ledger and Trezor are the top, and then there's everything else that are still solid. So let's keep those in mind for sure. And even sometimes people say if you have large amounts, you should have it. I'm of the opinion that you should use it whenever, so that you get into the habit of using them, right? I'd rather have like $10 worth of BTC on a Ledger and then be forced to use it than to have everything on the line, and that's the first time I touch a cold storage wallet. That's not a good thing. Versus hot wallets, and large is relative. How about that? That is the truth. And then versus hot wallets, so things that are connected, the way it's described is they are slightly less secure because of any issues with connection. But when I go through the Secure Advantage, that's a free masterclass for everybody, and I encourage you to share it with your friends and networks too, because it takes them through each part of this to get people more familiar. But you could have, an app on the phone. You can have a program on your computer. Those things are connected and slightly less secure because of any potential security issues on the internet will impact a warm wallet. I've, knock on wood, never had an issue, but that's not that other people, not to say that other people haven't. You may be more susceptible to malware and things like that if your computer is infected and people can have access. Another thing that reminds me, it's not on my notes to share, but oh, actually, I'm going to say that in a minute. I was about to say something about how to manage and secure your seeds and private keys. So any questions about wallets? in my email that follows up, I will add some of the recommended ones. If I have an affiliate relationship with one, like the Ledger, I will include that. You'll get a discount, I get a kickback, and it's win-win. And the others are just for your information, and I'll let you know if I've used them or not. So questions here. And if you have a question about a particular wallet to move from exchange to wallet, let me know the type, because even if I can't answer a question on here about a specific wallet, I can grab that information and include it in our follow-up email. So think about that. Any wallet that you have questions about, that you might use, or that you want to transfer into as well. All right. So the review for your seed words. When you set up your wallet, no matter what type of wallet it is, there will be, sometimes it's called a seed phrase, a series of words. It is generally 12 or 24 words. And I think I have a slide to show you what it looks like, just in case. This is how you should manage them. I recommend you get a safe deposit box or a safe that you keep in some place. If this is in your home, that you get something that is fireproof as well. Then safes are relatively inexpensive. You can get one that, of course, if somebody's really about that life, they might carry it out of the house. But the thing you do with thieves is just to discourage them, because they have a little bit of time to cause mayhem. It's like if they're walking down the street and every door is locked, yes, they could break the window, or they can open the door that is unlocked, right? So you just make it as difficult as possible for somebody to get access to it. And so this is what, they'll just be randomly generated words that are connected to your specific wallet. That means if you have a warm wallet and you have an app on your phone and you lose your phone, or anything could happen to an application, these words will allow you to set up your wallet, which is your communication, your connection to the specific blockchain for a specific asset on any other warm or cold storage wallet. So we should think less about the wallet and more about the access to your account. The wallet is the thing that that allows the connection, but it's not really about a specific one. But it's really, really important that you secure your seeds. Seeds are life in the world, for the food that we eat, and also in the crypto world. Seeds are life. And so your wallet will take you through this process of writing down all of them in order. So it's not enough to have the words, but you have to write them in order, which is what you see on the screen as well. So it wouldn't be good for you to put alone, which is in the number 1 position, in number 24, because the words would be out of order. You have to print legibly because if something goes wrong, it's not going to tell you, oh, you got number 1 or number 8 or number 10 wrong. It's just going to be like, sorry, no access. That will be maddening, I assure you. And so keeping those is going to be really, really important. And that is part of the risk of loss that we talked about with self-custody. But you can do this. We've been indoctrinated to believe that we have to trust others more than we trust ourselves with our own money, with our own value, with our own resources, with our own assets. So then we become beholden to these others, and we rise and fall based upon our ability to trust them and their trustworthiness. And so that's going to be really, really important too. Sometimes you'll set up a wallet and you will have access to the string, the alphanumeric string that is your private key that you should never, ever, ever, ever share with anyone else, in the same way as your seeds, to be sure. But if you have access to that, you would treat it in the same way. It would be like giving somebody the key, your password to your bank account, or the key to your house, right? So you have to be careful there. And I do love that. And it's good to know that Treasurer Anthony does the same thing that Ledger does to give the cards. I feel like this to me looks like a Ledger card. Does the Treasurer one look like this, basically? I don't know. Yeah, basically. So, and then you keep them in two separate places. And you can make copies of these and put them in multiple places. I know people who could like cut it up into 2 or 4 sections and keep them separately. That kind of mimics this idea of having a multi-sig account, right? So one person has 1 to 6, the next person has 7 to 12, the next person has 13 to 18, the next 19 to 24. And it requires them all to agree in order to make a move. So that mimics a multi-signature wallet to affect a transaction. I like that. It's the blessing and the curse, of course. It's like it always, I'm divorced, so it would seem like a good idea. It's like, honey, you keep these two and I keep these two. Now we need lawyers. So pick your person wisely. But that's the story for another day. All right. Any questions about that? Great. All right. Drop in the chat the one takeaway that you think you're going to make an action, that you're going to take action on right away. We're going to jump into the actual movement from the exchange to a wallet, but this presumes that everyone has a wallet and may have an exchange account and they want to move something. And I want you to, your action item after this is to actually move from one to another. After I talk through a couple of other things, I want to open it up to your questions. If you are doing this in real time, then I want to be here with you to answer any questions for sure. I also want to let you know about trust. I think what I'm going to do is drop some educational videos, because what I'm realizing now is this takes some time and everybody has different things. So it might be better for me to include the educational videos and my suggestions for warm versus cold in the email with specific instructions to go ahead and yes, that's what I do. For if you have a trust and estates lawyer or a lawyer, they're the best and they have their own vaults. And that's where I keep my trust and estates documents and things like that. And so that makes sense to me too. More so than a bank, honestly. Because I can't remember the last time, first of all, I was even in a bank or in the same place. Like I move around so much, that just doesn't help me. But to have it with a trusted person who I pay and who would be disbarred if they did something crazy, right? So that would be the best way to go. So what I will do in my follow-up later, so I may send one immediately as soon as I get the recording link, just so that everybody has access to it, because I see a lot of messages from people who couldn't come but want the information as soon as possible. And then I'll send a second one that has more detailed things with the steps that you might need to go through in order to move your stuff off of exchanges and onto your wallets. And then if there are any follow-up questions about a specific type of wallet, then that'll be easier for me to field that in kind of an exchange in emails, because there's some overview things that we're talking about here, but it may not be it's certainly not one size fits all. I want to remind you all why we're doing this. We're doing this when I think about median wealth, not just income, but wealth, right? When you think about your assets minus your liabilities and you net it out, that median of wealth is staggering when you compare all families and to white, Hispanic, Black, and and other, so some combination probably, or those who didn't report. But it is staggering to think that the white average wealth of $929,800, more influenced by families of means over time, or the ability to not start over from generation to generation. And even if you don't have to be Daddy Warbucks in order for this to make sense. It's someone who has a family-owned business and a home that is passed down. The ability to access equity in a home that was purchased, by moms and pops in 1929. That still has value to the family, and that one house down the shore, right? Or also pension plans and retirement benefits. But because of the inequities in the housing market, in the education market, that even income and ability to access the things that create generational wealth are far less. And so this is why you see reports of Black and brown communities, women, queer communities leaning into something that, even though it's highly speculative, even though it's new, because it presents a new opportunity to own a capital asset with capital appreciation and depreciation. You'll experience gains and losses. But people who are really winning in stocks, they win when the market's up and they win when the market's down. It's just a different strategy, but they're in the game and their assets are working harder than they are. If you're trading your time for money, you will never win. There's one of you and it's 24 hours in the day. And some of it has to be with your family and sleeping and being healthy and minding your business and traveling and resting and leaning into joy and balancing mental wealth, right? As Anthony Ware says, if you don't know, that was a nod to him. But, yes, I hope you're following him because he's doing some exciting things. In fact, as soon as I finish this final point, Anthony, you're going to tell people what you're working on, right? I participated in that bump sale. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I did. You should be following him. You're already behind. You all want to be high performers. You want to be ahead of the curve. And even though Bitcoin was introduced in 2009, you're still ahead of the curve. You're here with me. I'm sure you told people that you were going to participate in this, and some people said you were crazy and you're wasting your money. But you know you're not. But we have to stay involved in continuing crypto education. We have to stay ahead of the curve. We have to focus on scaling our businesses. We have to focus on asset appreciation and accumulation. We have to focus on building in this generation so that the generations that come behind aren't starting from scratch, because there is no such thing as starting from scratch. You're way behind. Think of how quickly the world has moved in the last 20 years, 30 years. So clearly the future is now. You hear me say that all the time. We are learning, we are protecting, we are earning. It starts today with taking control of and ownership over your future and your assets, and so that we can be in the best position to pivot. I'm thrilled to be connected to Arlen Hamilton, who believes in the system and even bought my program and then invited me to share that on her platform at Arlen's Academy as well, which Anthony is familiar, and there's actually several people who are in the club who also are part of Arlen's community, which is awesome, and other folks who have come from the financial industry and from policy and thought they knew it all, and ended up taking a course or leaning in. You all are club members, so at a bare minimum, you're in the club. Many people are also have lifetime access to the course content and information. Start that might be your action step. Go back in and access the module. The shift that we are doing in 2023, it used to be when I first created the Academy, was self-guided, prof-led experiences, supported by live sessions. What we're going to do now is the hybrid experience of really leaning into community, leaning into the learning, and then being supported by the modules. So the modules don't leave, but you have to go through to edify your understanding and strengthen your position. And also just know that those things are going to be updated as we get more information. When you know better, you do better. And when you have new information, you get to make a new decision. And this is what so many people who have come through the program, whether they're alums or continue to re-up either in the club or the content, why those who are most successful really lean into the intellectual curiosity of being a lifelong learner, which will make you a more informed earner. And that's what we want to do as we move forward. And so I mentioned that, and after I finish this, Anthony, get ready to chat it up. I am really excited to move into a space where I will be doing more high engagement, for a series of committed investors who are really committed to this idea of generational wealth and continuing crypto education. I call it to continue the analogy to my tennis career, my former professional tennis career, the Grand Slam Circle. That sounded right. And it's a top tier all access. We'll have more access to coaching opportunities with me to do things like we're doing right now on a more regular basis, based on a lot of the talks that I'm doing and the policy work that I'm doing, because regulations are changing. You all will be the first to know that, because most people don't do the work that I do. Most people aren't as plugged in or engaged to also have this educational platform to share in real time a lot of that work that I'm doing, a lot of the papers that I'm writing. I have a book that's coming out next year as well. So this is a really exciting time to be in the club and to learn as the modules are slowly being updated as well. So I'm going to drop that link to join the waiting list. I will have a huge discount opportunity for Black Friday, and we're going to start that tonight. Why wait? Let's do it now. Because the early bird's going to get the worm. Because of my level of engagement in it, it has to be limited to a core group of people where I have to cap it as well. But you all the first to know. As club members, obviously have first access to it before the general public will. But I'm really excited to do this and to really provide everything that I've learned with just a higher touch and more frequent opportunities to engage. And that is on top of the AE Explore Live Club, which will continue. So this same experience, the monthly meetups, anytime we do special education sessions like this one, you'll be involved. But to have the additional level of more consistent coaching, one-on-one time with me, things of that nature. So I'm really excited to do that, to start the waiting list. So look for that in your inboxes as well. And I switched from MailChimp to ActiveCampaign. So if you haven't been getting things regularly or it's kind of spotty, make sure I'm not winding up in spam or junk. I try and limit my use of the word crypto, which is difficult given what I teach, but it's more likely, the more times I say it, the more likely it is that your messages will go to junk or to spam because of the fraudsters and tricksters out there. A reminder, what you will also see, I have several people who are already signed up. I think there will be about, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20 people in San Juan with me on January 27th through 29th. I see you on here, Roz. I look forward to seeing you. My new executive assistant has confirmed all of our rooms, and we're doing the agenda and our little grab bag of information and a cocktail party on the beach, and I have a suite. So I'm going to do things for everybody who's VIPs to come, so that we do all of From Cash to Crypto in one weekend to really start 2023 off well. You will also look for a good opportunity. The best opportunities to attend at the lowest price has already passed, but there will still be a Black Friday incentive as well, and you all should look for that. And so there's just a lot going on, great opportunities. If you haven't been as engaged, don't worry, start where you are, because we're here, our community's growing, and I'm really excited about that. And with that, Anthony, talk about what you're doing, sir.
Oh, I'm doing so much. No, thanks for the time. And love this. Got some notes for what I need to do here over the next weeks and months. Greetings from Stockholm. And first off, I'm excited to start helping the community here. And it's a natural transition for me, coming off of being a steward with the ENS, which is Ethereum name service. So the .eth names, if you've seen those. And so coming off being a steward and now being able to put the time I was doing there to help with the community. So I'm stoked about that. Yeah, so for me, like what I'm doing is, as Professor Evans mentioned, I work on mental wealth. and have been focused primarily on entrepreneurs. And over the last 3 years, because of the murders, George Floyd, and even beyond that, what happened with the Asian American community, and just all the hate that was going on. And employees needed help, so I worked with employee resource groups in companies like Culture Amp and Amplitude, and speaking around that. So this past week, I launched kind of a course around, not kind of, I launched a course,
That's right.
a
I'm gonna tell
self-guided
Arlen on
course.
you.
Yeah. And launched it using, as you mentioned, a bump sale, which is something I learned from Arlen Hamilton. And the goal was to take what I've been using in corporate and make it something that people can do without me. And I'm learning from Tonya and Arlen. Like, there's going to be some extra surprises that I throw in there. But the whole goal is to make it as accessible to as many people as possible, while still running a business, because bills got to be paid, and wealth has to be generated. But the mental wealth is, the net of it is, we all have mental health from the time we're born till the time we die, just like our breath, just like our physical health. So why not do things like mental wealth deposits, I call them, to accumulate mental wealth, because good times happen and bad times happen. That's the human existence. There's no getting out of that. But when you have that wealth, just like your financial wealth, to help you move through the bad times and the challenging times, not necessarily bad, just challenging. So yeah, so that's what I'm focused on, and making it international, which is why I'm in part why I'm over here in Stockholm, because having meetings, connecting with folks, and yeah, and enjoying being in another country. So I won't.
Love it.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, obviously, I'm thrilled that you are a valued part of my community, and you were on Tech Intersect early as well. I think I have to have you back. I feel like you were like episode like 6 or something. I have to look back. I think I'm going to spotlight you to see all of that. And I've always believed very much in that idea. And a lot of times when I think about what I'm building, that if it doesn't, is if my what I'm building isn't informed by mental wealth and emotional balance, then it's not worth building. So I hear that. First of all, I love a good trademark, so I hear it when I'm making my own decisions. So you should know that. All right, we are done today. Get out of here. I will get on my to-dos. You all think about any to-dos that you need to do and the action items that you're going to take today and consistently over time, so that we get very organized and supercharged as we move out of 2022 and focus on 2023 and beyond. But don't get too far ahead of yourself, because we only have one moment. The past was one moment, the future is going to be one moment. We're always in a present moment, and so let's take what we have right now to make the best decisions that we can, and let's do it together. All right? All right, go out, go forth, conquer, be good to yourself and others, and I'll see you in your inbox. Thanks, everybody.